It is January the 19th, 2023. It is 6:32 p.m. and I call this meeting to order. So I'll call roll call first. Mayor Pro Tem Villalobos. Here. Councilmember Bunker.
Here.
Councilmember Styler.
Here.
Councilmember McLeod.
Here.
Councilmember Clinton.
Here.
And I am Mayor Glaze. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
And then I will say the invocation. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, thank you, Lord. Thank you for Martindale. Thank you for all of these servants who are willing to come and give their time to govern the city of Martindale. Lord God, we just praise you for their service. Lord God, we do praise you for your gift of salvation. And we do ask that you help us and guide us in all discernment and wisdom. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Okay, and I don't think we have any public comments. Okay, so we'll move on to city administrator's report.
All right, I don't have any slides with me today. I'll just kind of talk through what we're planning on personnel and staffing. Primarily focused on what our current discussions are and plans are regarding code enforcement, building officials, permit processing, and some of those things. So a little over a year ago, we undertook a hiring activity to look for an economic development coordinator, zoning administrator, building official. We ultimately, as a group, city council, decided to hire 2 people to fill those roles. Since then, or recently, just before Christmas break, we lost our building official. He resigned. So where we used to have 2, now we have none. So we're back in the same position we were a little over a year ago, where there's a lot of administrative work regarding building permit processing. There's a desire in our strategic plan to work towards community beautification and code enforcement issues. And so my intent is to rehire for those roles, however, possibly in a different way. So in our code of ordinances, we have a series of job descriptions or positions that are described, starting with the building official who oversees all building permits, subdivision applications, and other building related land use regulations. We also, within that, is a zoning administrator who serves as a secretary to the Planning and Zoning Commission and handles a lot of the zoning applications for variances, special use permits, and others. In the case where there is no zoning administrator, the building official acts as a zoning administrator. We also have a flood damage prevention officer, which recently we talked about making that position a certified floodplain manager, something that we look to possibly collaborate with the county or bring on somebody outside in a contract position. And there's also the historic officer who liaisons with the historic commission regarding the duties that are described to them. So making sure that in this historic corridor, the buildings are remodeled or spruced up in a manner that complies with our. There's some other less. So that's a lot of staff positions that are envisioned in being executed. In the absence of those, they fall on the city administrator. So because of my part-time role here, in the absence of the city administrator, it really falls on the dual shoulders of the mayor as the chief executive officer of the city, and then our assistant city administrator, and who's also our city secretary, city clerk, which has its own roles. As we've seen previously, but over the last number of years, that situation is a good way to make mistakes. Things fall through the cracks. If someone submits a application, a land use plan of some kind that requires a permit, if it's not expeditiously acted upon, it almost gets approved by default after so many days. Those things become a serious concern. So given that background, I do think it's imperative that we go off and hire to backfill. The way that we're thinking of doing that is, given some of the difficulties that we've had in having one person or even two people do it all, but from a part-time basis, or even when we've made them 3 days a week or more, there's clearly enough work for as many people as we can afford. We just can't afford that money. It's hard to stay focused within your swim lanes without external pressures really getting in the way of focusing on areas that need specific attention. So like code enforcement. Our previous building official did a great job with code enforcement, did a great job across the board. But there are times where the flood damage prevention things that he, given his experience and expertise in, lended him to support on that, but to the detriment of maybe some of the code enforcement duties. Or handling the zoning applications once those started to come in after we lost our zoning administrator, really put the building official on the back foot and handling the rest of it. So what we're thinking of doing now is one or two options when it comes to the code enforcement. Looking at hiring a part-time person who either has law enforcement experience or has experience in the trades, such as a real estate housing inspector, that nature, who might own their own business and could dedicate a day to do code enforcement work. Not necessarily, they're not doing the building inspections. We have a company that we contract that does that. But to do the nuisance violation work. Right now, we're thinking of that code enforcement person being an inspector role, code enforcement inspector, either placed within the police department or under the city administrator. Recently, I talked with the chief of police, and I think we have a pretty good path forward in hiring a former law enforcement officer who could easily complete the credentialing requirements under the state law to become a licensed code enforcement officer, and in the meantime would be well suited to do nuisance violations. There's a lot of efficiencies that could be achieved by placing that person within the police department when it comes to issuing notices of warnings, and especially when it comes to issuing citations and getting substandard conditions correct. So that's one. The other option would be to work on under the city administrator, but I think that there's enough benefit and value in pursuing the police department approach. I think that's what we're going to focus on near term exclusively. I envision that position to be 1 day a week, every week, 8-hour shifts, and the job duties and descriptions be the enforcement of our nuisance violations. So the overgrown brush, substandard unsafe structures, and those things are called out, I think, in chapter 90, 91, and the rest. However, that person would not be involved in the permit process. What we're thinking of doing on the permitting side is opening up a paid internship with the local college for somebody who's pursuing their master's or a recent graduate who's looking for some part-time work that has an interest in and has an interest in and a background of public administration or geographic information systems, civil engineering, urban planning, someone with that kind of background who's looking for a foot in the door to help us out, shuffle papers from the inbox to the outbox. Their role, given that level of experience, would not be to the same that we're receiving on our last building official, who came in with a pretty knowledge base where he could evaluate those applications for various issues. And instead, if we're hiring at that lower level, entry level position, they would really just be in charge of making sure that the reviews happened, the staffing took place, the planning and zoning chair and vice chair are informed of applications that have been received, helping to schedule those meetings, and coordinating and facilitating the staffing review of those documents for our city engineer or the code, or not the building inspectors, Bureau Veritas. So it would be a significant reduction from what we were receiving, but I think that's where we have the biggest need, is just handling the paperwork.
Mhm.
And I don't think we need to
Make sure we-
overcomplicate that if we can.
Make sure we get the 30-day,
Right.
keep track of the dates.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Keep track of the dates and really be part of a process to say, is this application sufficient on its face? And is it okay to go forward for review, and then go forward for review there?
May I ask a question?
Uh-huh.
About the code enforcement, the
Mhm.
enforcement and for the violations? So, I mean, like, we're talking about 1 day a week. So if we have, like, if we're a community and, like, say a neighbor down the road has high grass and somebody submits a blah, blah, blah online and, turns in a potential code violation. And then, like, if we have an officer on duty, they go by, take a picture, boom, we send out a letter. You have X amount of days to do this, pass by again, X amount of days. They don't, citation in the mail.
Mhm.
I mean, why, I hear what you were saying about needing to have a person, but if I was a person that was wanting to do this, how effective is 1 day gonna be a week?
So that's a very good question. I think it's important that we cover it. The code enforcement does right now fall within the chief of police's domain. When there is a report made online, on the back end, immediately copied is myself, Adrian, the mayor, and the chief of police on any of those issues. So he becomes aware of those. Most of the time, we coordinate a staff response, unless it's a police issue or a code issue. Well, when we did have a code issue, we'd have our building official handle it. But if it's not dealing with a code violation, it would be handled between the three of us, the mayor, myself, and Adrian. When in the case where there's a code violation, yeah, the police department can take action on that then. The thought of having somebody dedicated to that activity, in addition to the officers that we have now, is to pursue some of the work that's not necessarily always in the field, some of that office work that might be required. So to use an example, we have a number of substandard structures that are within a flood hazard area, whether a floodway or floodplain. And those, as we've mentioned before, are a priority to have those resolved. So a police officer, sure enough, can go there and take a picture and say, hey, we probably have this, but there's some additional staff work that would be required to coordinate with our attorney office and engineers to take the assessments and other items that would take them away from patrol duties that a separate code enforcement officer dedicated to that could do feasibly on 1 day a week. So if it's an emergency situation, like there's a serious health concern because someone's illegally dumped an animal carcass, as an example, and someone puts that online, our police department would be able to address that immediately. If it's something like the grass is overgrown, we might wait for the next Monday, see if the grass has been cut over the weekend, and have that person then taken on that time, because it's not as an emergent issue as, say, something that would affect the health or safety of somebody.
Because how are a majority of the complaints coming into the city? Is it online? Is it like, is the city actively going out and looking for code violations? How is the violation being addressed to the city, and making known that it's a nuisance?
Most of the time, it's our own investigation, our driving around surveying the conditions within the community. That's probably number one. Number two is it's probably a 50-50 hand on people walking in to the front door and mentioning it while they're paying their bill or just stopping by, or an online report. Our online reports, we probably get about one a week on various issues. Maybe one every other week. I'll have to go back and really give you, if you're really interested in that, we can do a deep dive on the data, but it's not that frequently, but it's frequent enough that we've kind of developed an internal protocol to address
I
it.
mean, because I'm just one, to me, it just makes me, think, and I want to know, like, because, is it somebody that, and I don't like to use this word, but, is it somebody that's going around and like looking? Is this neighbor a nuisance neighbor? Do I not like that man right there? Because he's always, saying something about my dog when I'm like,
Well, that's the issue that
You
in
know,
that position
is it like-
is a sensitive
Yeah, is it
public
personal
relations
or-
position because of that
Yes.
fact. Because if I have a neighbor that I don't like,
You don't
and
wanna
I'm calling
target
code
anyone.
enforcement every day, like his dog's yipping,
Yeah.
his dog's yipping.
Oh.
You want to be the equal application of justice in that
Uh-huh.
context. So that's why substandard structures. We have plenty of substandard structures in the community. However, given our resources, we're focusing on those that pose the most immediate hazard based on their location in the floodplain. Other things, if it's health or safety, illegal dumping, something like that, that's probably going to be addressed right away. What we don't want to do, and I've talked to the chief about this and the mayor, is be in a position where our code enforcement officer becomes a cudgel to go after people who might have less means,
Mhm.
or in a way that is unfair or prejudicial to the circumstances in the community. An example of that we've talked about is there are some recreational vehicles that are being used in the community that has been a concern. But we also recognize that accountability for vehicle nuisances cuts both ways. And so until we get our own ship in shape with our own nuisance vehicles, maybe we don't go around seeking out violations for other nuisance vehicles unless they're clearly deteriorating the welfare of the community.
I can tell you that the way that it works is in the almost 6 years I've done this for the city, if someone gets a violation for a citation for violating the ordinance, which, I mean, maybe one or two every time we have court. And I don't think anyone's ever paid more than $25 for a citation. It's because they're a habitual offender.
Mhm.
But generally the question is, look, have you touched the grass, or have you fixed the gate so the dog's not getting out? And if the answer is, yeah, I've done that, okay, we'll dismiss it. Have a nice day.
Mhm.
So the goal behind this is not to bludgeon anyone. I mean, as long as I'm doing this, I can tell you I'm not, because I wouldn't want to be treated that way. But the goal is if you've got someone that habitually presents a problem, lets a dog run loose, or leaves junk out on the road, or leaves their limbs on the side of the road, or throws trash around, and keep doing it again and again, I mean, there's going to be a process for that. But if someone makes an honest mistake and they fix it, then I don't care.
Yeah.
I'll say something too, is that I know that the building and code enforcer person we had did give out several warnings, a lot of warnings, but I think there was a time lag or a disconnect between that next step, between saying, Does the police work hand in hand with this once he's been warned? Does it go to become a court case? It seems like there was so much lag time in between, and a lack of an understanding between the other city employees about what these warnings were and where they were and what was going on. And so we were sort of in the dark, not knowing a lot of these things. And that caused a delay in trying to enforce things. Or, I mean, if we have concrete, streamlined a way to enforce this, then yes, but I agree with what she's saying, is that one day a week isn't enough. And even in this past week, I've seen clearing of property, demolishing of buildings, burning of debris and wood within the city limits on days when you're not even supposed to burn. I've seen trenching of water lines. I mean, I have seen so much stuff done. And what happens is a lot of this gets done on the weekend. And so it's like, if you say, yeah, I'm gonna have someone here during the week, that's great. But in the past, so many people have gotten accustomed to no enforcement, installing electric lines, water lines, clearing, burning, adding on, whatever. I mean, and yes, this has been going on for years and years. And years.
Some of the efficiencies we get will by putting this person in the police department. Whereas before, that's one of the benefits. The prior structure, the code enforcement would do an investigation and turn the case or the issue over to the police department. And the police department, before issuing a citation, would need to do their own investigation. There's kind of a two process to that. This will streamline that. We're going straight to the police department from the jump. So there'll be less of that handover flag. On the issue of over the weekends, if there's again a threat to health and safety.
All you have to do is come down and see Lily, and anyone. There's a form that you can fill out to make a citizen's complaint that will result in someone having to come to municipal court the next time we have it. And so if there are in fact things that are happening that are dangerous to health and safety,
Yeah,
come down here.
I think the biggest thing that I think is you guys are the ones in the office, and you guys are realizing what you're shorthanded at and what's going to be most efficient to take pressure off y'all's plates, because it's falling on y'all, So in my head, if you think this is the most efficient way of doing it, then I say go for it, but it is good to ask these questions.
Cost effective
Yeah.
also is we could spend a lot of money.
I mean, you could hire another assistant for Adrian
Right.
and help that out, but is that cost effective?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's you guys are the ones here working. And if you think this is a good idea and it's gonna alleviate pressure off y'all's plate, then I say go for it.
I agree with you, Nick. Totally agree. Y'all guys on the front line. We're not on the day-to-day operations.
Well, why not do some kind of a contract? An independent contract and then whenever something comes up, give them a call, they come when they can next get here, set up a time and take care of it.
We could approach it in that manner. It's a little bit more reactive than having an employee. Having an employee, you have you do have more administrative control over the activities that person does,
Mhm.
and it can be a little more proactive in some of your enforcement. That's the benefit of having somebody. Now, we consider contracting. I know I reached out to a local, a small city nearby, see that, who I think has a part-time person. Hey, does that person want to pick up some more shifts or contract with us? But it kind of goes back to the real estate inspector who might be in that could be under a contract basis versus an employee basis. But you would run back to the problems that Sam kind of alluded to of there's a delay between the warnings and the enforcement and closing that case file, taking action against that condition.
Do you think that was happening because he had 5-6 different responsibilities on his plate as well? the last building official?
I think it played a part to that. I know he was very well organized in managing his cases and things. It's taken us some time to pick up from that.
Yeah.
Which is a topic for another conversation. But
The only reason I said that.
but I think it's where we started getting the zoning issues and the variance requests and the rezoning requests and the subdivision applications and the River Advisory Board going through a significant rewrite of some of our flood damage prevention and zoning ordinances. He was heavily involved in that, given his expertise. Those things definitely contributed to some of those issues.
So then this person would need, or we have their own city computer to use, where we would exclusively say, you can only use this computer. You cannot use your personal computer.
Yeah,
And
that
I think that's
100%. That's something that we're taking action on and writing into an employee policy. That's nearing completion. Probably have it to city council probably in March. Want to give it a chance to staff it internally some more. But yeah, that's something that's being addressed and going to continue to be addressed going forward. There was an issue with employees using personal electronic devices previously, and it wasn't isolated to just one employee. And we're taking steps to overcome that. In this case, if the person is with the police department, I believe the police department still has, right, chief, there's still a computer back there, staff computer in the office. So they would make use of that staff computer.
And would it come out of the police department budget?
Well, all of our payroll budget is managed collectively. So you wouldn't see any budgetary change in that manner. It would impact some of the reporting possibly that we do to the state regarding the size of our police force and other things.
So
But
this is in essence adding another officer.
it's not a police officer, it'd be a code enforcement officer, but they'd be under the direction of our police department, our chief of police.
Can I say something?
Yeah, Chief, it's probably a good time for you to
Just
jump
give
in.
some oversight. What would happen is the code enforcement officer would be able to go out there, see a violation, articulate a report, and then we can move forward with a warning. Once they write a warning, or whatever they do, it may be egregious and says, hey, we need to address this right now. So then he comes and writes a report, then we have that report to stand on, and we move forward with our warning or our citations, so the courts can have something. We didn't have that. The lag was, we didn't have, hey, we got a violation over here.
Mhm.
So that was the lag time. It was, okay, we can't just go out there and, okay, here we are, we're gonna see what we got.
Mhm.
We had to start all over, instead, like Jared was saying.
We're gonna advertise this as code investigator instead of enforcement. And that way that person would investigate what the violation is and then consult with the city.
Mhm.
Yeah, what I like about it is you got one less chain of command.
Mhm.
It goes directly to the top where they do the actual enforcement. So,
And the top's also informed on the citizen complaints that we get through our website. So
That would be, I think
there's
that would make it
efficiencies.
streamlined quite a bit. I agree.
So are we starting again on certain cases? Or we'll just proceed as can be, because there's been some standing warnings that have been out for almost a year now.
Well, certain warnings for certain violations do have a lengthy incubating period, if you will. Like I think it's the nuisance cars, or one of them is up to a year between the report and when the city could go and take action on that under our codes. So
there's.
others are like 30 days or 60
For them
days.
to be able to be compliant.
Yeah, or for
Or
the,
being
so
cited.
in some cases, I think the one I'm thinking of is if you have a junk or nuisance vehicle and you receive a warning or citation or whatever, if you don't correct it within a year, the city can go in and have that vehicle towed off of your property.
Oh.
So, but those sort of things, or if you don't mow your grass, and we give you a warning, and you still don't mow your grass, it's another, I think it's 30 days or something before we go in, we mow it, and then now that becomes a part of the assessment that's arrived at the quarter, or however the fee or whatever. So, or really it's a reimbursement to our costs. So there's some, on those more extreme, where the city takes the problem into their own hands, there's some lengthy time to provide opportunity to process, but
That's the last thing anybody wants.
no.
To
Right,
rip from
most people
Martindale.
comply.
Yeah.
Almost, I think we only issued one, maybe two citations. Almost everybody complied before it got that far.
So in the case of outstanding warnings, we'll review what we have and but that condition may have changed, may have gotten worse. A lot of that coming in with the new code enforcement inspector, some of their early duties are going to reassessing, getting familiar with our code, going on field calls, but probably spend those first weeks driving the community a lot and reassessing, those cases or developing new cases from whole cloth from that point going forward.
So are you going to be advertising this, or
Yeah, so
are you just gonna do it on email or please?
I think what he said is they have somebody that.
there's
Well-
there's potentially somebody that we're looking at that comes with a recommendation that we're considering. If that doesn't work out, we'll go out with a pub.
So
with
you're not
open.
required.
That's for the
to do
code
an
enforcement.
application.
That's for the,
Well, this is probably.
they would still have to go
part-time
through
position.
they still have to go through a pre-employment process that would include an interview
Yeah.
at a minimum and reference checks at a minimum.
Okay.
The other, the intern or entry level permits individual, that will be publicly posted. TML, there's a internal job board at Texas State University that we can make use of. We can even, we have relationships built with some of the professors that manage their internship or externship programs with the Masters of Public Administration. And so we can tap into those networks and see if they have any, A+ students who want to get their feet wet. And then if we need to, we can go to using Indeed. We've used Indeed or other more public-facing job boards in the past. It just creates a higher burden of screening those candidates.
Any more discussion? Okay, then we'll go ahead and move on to the police report.
Good evening, everyone. Think y'all have the report I submitted. In December of 22, we wrote 102 citations, 68 warnings for a total of 170. Some of those warnings were for some of the things we're talking about right here for city ordinance violations. We had some animals loose, fireworks, and some parking. The rest were all traffic related. So, but we did address some of those things during the year, especially on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. I was here and we wrote lots of warnings. I don't think we cited a lot of residents that we spoke to. Some people didn't know it was even a code. So maybe next year we can look at, and when the fireworks season's around, make sure we post that on our website, better post our ordinance on there. Just some things I thought of when I was out there talking to some of the folks, just some everyday folks that just had some fireworks at their house. Other than that, we made it through Christmas and everything was good and made it through the new year and looking forward to this year. Any questions? Anything? No?
Thanks, sir.
Thanks.
Well, thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
Thanks, Tommy.
Okay, now we're ready for the court report.
So we can motion.
Good seeing you're out.
Yeah, we're up.
Wow.
A bit.
And that's 2 months ago.
Oh, yeah. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
How y'all doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everybody.
All right, y'all got both November and December in front of you. You can see that the numbers have gone up, the takeaway, the big number, the comptroller, what we're paying, I was pretty close last month when I estimated it. Comes out to about 26 and a half. That's goes to them. But yeah, you can see where we are relative to last year. And anyway, it's kind of self-explanatory, but I'll answer any questions anybody might have about anything.
You said 26 and a half. What was that?
Yeah, that's goes to the comptroller.
It's like 25.5.
Yeah, was it? Yeah, 26.5 for that. I projected 25.5 for the last one.
So there's, when there's a ticket issued, a fee that's issued and it's paid, a portion of that fee goes to the state. If you recall, these were the things that were not being done several years ago that created the debt. So we're paying that fee now.
What's the percent of that? What is the?
Well, more than several years ago, a long time. Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it since I've been here 10 years. So yeah, I can't answer that. I don't.
Well, just look at the gross numbers. Well, we don't have all 3.
I mean, you asked about the interest on the debt.
No, I'm just asking what percent we get to keep.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, okay. Yeah, now you can look there at the average. It varies between, you're looking, okay, just take the gross and then that's what we keep. So, we keep, we keep a little less than half usually.
Okay.
The state gets most of it, depending on the numbers. What we keep can be anywhere from, 40 to 50%.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking about the other thing. I'm
So
like,
where does it,
There's no interest on that one.
so where does it indicate on here that
So if
the
you,
amount that goes to the controller?
I don't know that report does because
I don't know.
well,
That's fine.
table
The last
say-
thing, yeah.
Yeah, that's a function of that.
Okay.
That's calculated in. So yes, and so every month, I mean, prior to the end of the month, I kind of just make a projection. I mean, you'll see on these, it'll be like, if you look at November, I was just a guesstimation of what it was 25.5 is what I said. And then it wound up being 26.5.
see,
But that's,
see the first 2 numbers on the credit column,
mhm.
the 12,000 and the 329.
Mhm.
That's the operating fund, general fund revenue we get. So more than half of it,
Yes,
we,
the
yes.
22.
of the 22, yeah.
Yes, did I get it? I got it backwards. Yes. Yes, the fines collected, that is our net, basically is what that
About
is.
half, okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, I got it flipped. But yeah, no, everything is,
We're getting close, paying that debt off. We're getting closer and closer.
Well, the fees that go.
That doesn't go towards the debt.
Well, we're paying.
No, this is the fines
I got
to what we currently
Gotcha.
have, not from what we paying off in the
Yeah,
past.
like-
And this is collections, not necessarily tickets written.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
This is from the
it
past.
would be nice if you could include the amount that goes to the comptroller so that people know that, yes, this is what we have to do.
Well, that's in
All
the
right.
financial report.
yeah, that's, yeah.
Oh, it is?
Because that comes out of our
Okay.
sales tax.
Point that out.
You mean the amount going to the comptroller from the money that we
Not the sales
previously
tax.
owed?
No, that sales tax is paying that. It's because we weren't paying the comptroller
Yes.
for these fines that we got in trouble for. That's where we
So-
had penalties and interest accrued that made it so high.
We didn't have any penalties or interest.
We don't anymore. We got that forgiven.
So
That's after it got up to 500,000.
I'm not sure I understand what you're you're asking, but,
Well, he's saying part of that goes to the comptroller. I just like to know.
well, it's that bottom number.
Yes.
The
But it's-
9586 of the
Oh.
22, that goes to the comptroller.
That's the court fees to the comptroller.
Yes.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And the other thing is.
And then those other three little ones above it,
Yeah.
those are kept in a designated account here.
Right.
And for, if we, need software updates, things like that.
But my reports, the court's reports don't reflect the other that we're paying on, that we were just talking about.
Right,
That's
right. I
cost
know
of-
that. I
That's
know that.
basically the cost of doing business. The state charges us.
Right,
for-
that comes from our sales tax.
Yes.
So when do you hold court? During the day? Which days of the week during the day are you here? Orchestrating and getting the fines and when do you hold court?
Well, that is what the clerk does. We hold court only when we need to. If there's a special reason for me to come in, or a juvenile or something like that, or on the days that were designated for pretrial dates that me and Kent meet and we have all the people come in, that is when I come here. It's kind of a as need to basis. I mean, I'm in constant communication with Letty about things, email and calls for atypical situations and stuff like that. But as far as me coming in, I come in when I need to. I come in when I need to do reports or other stuff, and it's usually odd hours, and but it's just as whenever I need to.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Looks like you're a lot busier than last year.
Yeah, things are good, going well around here. I'm pleased.
Thank you, Judge.
Well,
Well,
thank you.
there's that
All right.
December report.
Y'all have a good evening.
Yeah,
Good seeing
together.
everybody.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the wastewater management report.
Hello, everybody. We didn't have too much going on in December. We had one power outage and a squirrel got into the power pole. Knocked the fuse. It knocked out the power to the pump station that we called Blue Bond, and they came back and raised the fuse to energize the lift station back. And we also replaced the battery on the communication box there. It had quit communicating, so we got that going at the Martindale Apartments. Then at the medicine lift station, we didn't have too many things going on there. I got to check over the contract on that level indicator and to see where what the status is on that. So, and also at the main crux of this station, that a lot of these things are repetition, but we had a meeting, I think that Monday, I believe, and we're gonna start knocking some of these things out. The electrical issues and also a lot of the pump, I guess that needs to be, the pump bowl, I guess that needs to be replaced there as well. And
What he's referencing is we held a meeting with, if you recall, when we went through our American Recovery Plan Act funding that was provided to us, and we were putting a large portion of that into our wastewater system. We had a kickoff meeting with our engineering team, Freeland and Turk, along with their subcontractor for electrical engineering, along with their wastewater operator. Had a discussion on what the plan is going forward about what's possibly in scope, and then they took a field trip to go to look at the conditions at the different lift stations.
yeah, he did an assessment of all the stations to see what would be the more economical way to approach the electrical issues and stuff. I guess he's gonna write out a plan and send it to Jared and the mayor.
Did you put the report in? The website?
I don't, do we have?
Yeah, it's on there.
Yeah, I saw it in the.
Page 10, maybe
Okay.
15, 20.
And also at the wastewater plant, we did our regular stuff there. We collected our samples and we're meeting all our requirements there with the pH and the BOD stuff. And also we calculated our flow readings, so we have to do every month. And checked all the wiring in the control panels. And let's see. Well, I think I'm gonna get some quotes on possibly, I think I talked to the mayor earlier during the last week, I think about the cleaning out our lift stations and also our sewer lines. that haven't been done in a long, long time, so before we get any issues there, it's best to get some quotes and come in and do some maintenance on the system. Those things, and also we did accomplish the sewer tap for the building here for that bed and breakfast tap. I called it Perry and Perry, but the mayor said there's another name for it. I don't know what the correct name is.
Martindale Motors.
It's done now, so now they're able to discharge sewer whenever they open their facility, so. And do you have the flow pumpage report, I guess? And the flow was a little high this in December because everybody was at home cooking, I guess, Christmas and what have you. And we averaged about 53 million per day there during that month. And the maximum flow was 145,314. And our minimum was 9,639. And the total flow was that went to the wastewater plant was 1,400,649 million gallons. And there's some things like I said, we're gonna have to start doing, maintenance and stuff like that. So they'll probably be on the next agenda because I didn't want to overload it on this one, but it wasn't part of this in December. So anybody have any questions there?
Is there a lift station that is or is not still in use on Northwest Road across from the Indian Springs
Yes, sir.
trailer park?
That is
It's
correct.
in that where it flooded and there's all those concrete slabs. What's that called?
That's it's a one northwest. I guess it's closer to Indian Point. I guess that little trailer park.
Yeah.
Catty corner, I guess. What are you referring to?
I mean, is it still in use?
No,
Is it
sir.
abandoned?
That's abandoned.
Because I thought we were still paying electricity on
No,
that.
I think they took the meter out of that thing. I think I can recall.
Okay, maybe if you're driving, you can check that, or if
Yeah.
you think it is not being used anymore.
Yeah, because I think even if you don't use it, they may be charging a minimum, maybe. I'm not pretty sure, but it might be something to look into.
But because that's in the floodway, it's not used anymore? or-
Well, yeah, they got compromised. I think the only thing it was using was that the apartments that were right next to it. They were pumping it back into the main Northwest Railroad. And that's all it served there. But it can be rehabbed. Eventually, they need to use it. I mean, I'm sure they can just put a new panel and new pumps in it and stuff. And
Who was using it?
nobody.
You know what, the ones that got demolished because of the flood?
Yeah.
The Butler buildings, those
Yeah, I think,
little
yeah, I
Oh,
think it
they
was
were no longer there.
Memorial Flood.
Yeah.
Yeah. They tore it down, they got flooded.
Yes.
Question, so that 1,004,000
Mhm.
divided by 1,100 residents, so we're looking at like 900 gallons a month per resident. Is that,
Yeah, how many homes do we have on it?
so,
Except, what do you have, 200 customers?
well, we've got about 400 customers, right?
We
About
counted
half-
it, it was about 200, 180, I want to say.
Oh, on the sewer.
on the
It's
sewer.
gonna be different, yeah.
Yeah. So about $900, 900 gallons a month per resident. Interesting.
That seems awfully low.
Divided by 30.
Low?
Well, I guess it would be because these are only people on the sewer, and it sounds like the vast number are not. If we mail out 400 bills and you say only 180 of them have sewer, so under half of our residents are actually on.
No, it comes out to the million gallons total divided by 180 customers is 5,500 gallons
That
per
sounds-
month.
That sounds more like it.
Or how? Yeah, I'm just
That sounds more like
interested in looking at that when we get our average winter usage and all of that and see how these
And most people
macro
are,
numbers, how they look.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Most people
are
are
on
septic.
septic,
Yeah.
like Hobson Ranch and
It's not
like
another-
of those.
Yeah. And I told the mayor before the meeting that I got a call from a contractor, I guess from San Marcos. They're gonna start to work on the sewer tap for the fire department. I think she's gonna look into that. So I didn't know the fella, I think it's Winston Construction or something like that. So just want to make you all aware of that. So,
The one here on Lockhart
the
Street.
new, no, the one for the new
The
fire
new one.
station. Yes.
Okay.
So just be aware of that.
Got a question back there.
What?
Just ask them.
Go ahead.
Is Skyview hooked up to the sewer?
Just the very first street.
Just the first street?
Yes, sir.
What about businesses that are within the city limits that are not hooked up to the sewer line, like say Pack and Sack and Quail Run and those places? When does the city want to pursue that and say, well, you need to hook up, or do they just continue to have a septic tank? there?
Well, I know that conversation was brought up a while back with this store here by the Taco Philly.
Yeah.
Because they have a leach field that's real small, probably about the size of this room, I guess, and it would overtop all the time. And Steve got kind of concerned, the guy from the water plant, I mean, the nitrate levels in the water and stuff. And I know that I got a proposal to tie in that store and the Taco Phillies and tie them in by the Dollar General.
By Dollar General?
Yes, that's where that line goes through, right along the fence line.
Okay.
That was a squirrel.
Big fried. Yeah, I know Jared was talking about it the other day, but some of those things that, just, it's out of your control. I understand.
Yeah.
I mean,
And you do that.
yeah. Made a joke out of it.
That's why we're hiring these electrical engineers, and maybe,
Somebody put the hose in
that's part of the work that we're doing with the electrical engineers, looking to get, power protection and maybe some small power supply, equipment out there. So if we get a fry like that, it doesn't ruin our equipment.
Yeah, probably a good idea.
Anybody else got anything for me? Or?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice.
Okay, we have a recommendation from the Martindale River Advisory Board about the freeboard issue, and Adrian's gonna talk about that.
Oh, well, I was hoping this would be a report from the River Advisory Board. But yeah, it's the River Advisory Committee on 1/12. Is that when the last meeting was?
Yeah.
Actually, it was a meeting before when you recommended it.
Yeah, meeting before recommended, and then we discussed it.
Right. So sometime in December, when the River Advisory Board met, they made 3 recommendations to the city council. One is they're going to prepare a leaflet for property owners along the river, advising them about the river hazards and flood mitigation and such. The second one is the free board, which I'll go into more detail in a minute. And the third recommendation was
The notification system.
Right, the radar.
With regard to flooding.
So there appears to be some kind of notification system that we will put down the road or down the river that would notify the city's emergency management team. So I guess the police officers, our mayor, about when a flood is about to happen. You can predict those events with a radar. I can get more information for the council on that. Now, the big topic would be the free board. We loosely talked about it last meeting. Does anybody still have any questions on free board from the last meeting?
I think we had the discussion about, we talked about the changes that we would like
Mhm.
and the numbers that we would like to see. So I believe that, what's reflected now was based upon those conversations that we had at our last meeting.
Well, they're recommending the 24 inch.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the council recommended.
And it's actually, the county actually already has implemented that. 24 inches is already the standard,
Oh, really?
and the same as San Marcos. And in this area, that seems to be pretty much the standard. You can't go above the 24 inches without potentially litigation, because it's an undue burden. So the issue is the definition, with the approval of the definition. So there's a definition in there. We actually have the link to get the actual FEMA definition, which is a close proximity to what you see in there already. But basically, the definition of freeboard is the above the BFE. That's basically what it is. It's a defined. So if the BFA verbiage ever goes away, freeboard is freeboard.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah,
it's just a new verbiage.
that's on
That's all it is.
page 24. those changes.
And attached to that recommendations are language that the River Advisory Committee recommends to be included in our ordinance. What they would like to see change in our ordinances from our flood damage prevention.
But this is the first step of many, but this, like we talked about, previous covers, so you guys, we have to declare that separately because it was an important issue and it was actually going to address in a different section. Instead of 153, that was 155, so it's a clean thing to do. So instead of trying to do 153 and like there's 20 different subtopics with it, this is doing, let's just do the big one. This is the big one, is changing the definition or including the proper definition that FEMA is now using, everyone else is using the standard, which is freeboard. And then defining and agreeing that the 24 inches is the standard. And whether we approve it or not, it's the counties anyway, so it's already de facto approved, if you will. But it's just using the proper verbiage, if you will, that is now a standard.
Yeah.
So we were just, hadn't been changing forever. A lot of it hadn't been addressed.
And so we hope by the next council meeting, we'll have an ordinance for you guys to.
Can I make a point here? I looked at the document and looks good overall, but for example, can we go to freeboard? The definition of freeboard?
Is this document the reflective of what's existing or what?
This is the one that it was sent to me.
It's the,
Old is the changes.
it has our, that's a.
Everything's old.
Can you put, okay, here we go, freeboard.
Mhm.
Now I have something from FEMA. In my personal opinion, this is FEMA.
Yeah.
Called freeboard.
Here, it's on that.
Yeah, I printed it out.
Oh, you have printed it?
Yeah.
I really think we need this. I know this was taken from this document, but I think we need to do verbatim, which FEMA defines freeboard. We need to put the same wording, the same definitions as FEMA. That's my opinion.
Okay.
You follow me?
Mhm.
I mean, you're close, you cut and pasted it, but I think we need to follow, since we're all gonna go with FEMA, the county's going with FEMA, the San Marcos, like he said, so I think we need to use that verbiage. That was mine.
So what is in here
Do you wanna read it?
that's different? Yeah.
The one in the FEMA is, this was found, this verbiage that you see that was presented was found elsewhere on the website, and subsequently we found the actual definition page on the FEMA website, and it provides a little more detail into it. So basically, one of the concepts is you're getting rid of using the BFE as a reference, you're just using freeboard. And the freeboard is then defined against another definition, and so you're not repeating yourself, with the.
Oh, I see.
You know what I
I see.
So we found more information as time has gone on, so more than anything.
And if we're gonna go through this document also, I saw that, to me, it goes up here on what page that is, when we start, talking about, okay, 153.41A. It said we're gonna scratch out base flood and then we're gonna put in freeboard elevation of 24 inches. I believe, reading this document from FEMA, it specifically says a freeboard is an additional amount of height above the base flood elevation used as a factor of safety, example, 2 feet above the base flood. I think we need to keep the base flood freeboard elevation together. We should not delete base flood, what I'm saying in that document.
Well, you mean from the definition? There should be a
Yeah, I
separate
mean,
definition.
No, I think these need to be together because if we got a developer or a builder
They're
come in.
separate. FEMA has them separate.
No, this is for our ordinance,
Oh.
but to keep the confusion, because it states in here base flood elevation and freeboard. I think both those terminologies need to be kept in the document.
Fair enough. That's easy enough.
That one, everything else will look good. And the only other point that I looked in here, I agree with living space. Where's that at? What's that one here? Okay, it's specific 153.41 down to B, non-residential construction. It says new construction and substantial improvements, and that's that's been marked through,
That's for, that's for, it
and
really.
commercial, is that for
That's all. That's
is that
all
for
in there.
non-resident, residential also? Is that in there?
Yes, is it on top?
Where's that at?
Non-residential would be,
A is residential,
Yeah.
and it says new construction and substantial improvement to any residential structure shall have the lowest base of 24 inches of a freeboard. So it's basically saying any new construction and or improved to construction over whatever the threshold is, 50, whatever, 60%, whatever that percentage is, they're going to go up. I mean, one of the pitches obviously is that you're actually doing them a service because the savings, if you will, just on flood insurance more than pays for it in literally 5 years. So it's.
Okay, I do agree with new construction. But for example, say somebody has a house on the river and they want to,
I'm affected by that as well.
I mean, that's just, so you got an older structure.
I'm with you there.
If you got an older structure, like, I've been through this.
Yep.
I was fortunate, my house was pier and beam, I was able to raise my house three feet. However, if you have a slab and it's gonna be very difficult to raise it, so I don't know if we should have that terminology in there for substantial. I would say all new construction for sure, but I think we would be putting a burden on people with older homes.
So the discussion, I was obviously impacted, I'm impacted by this. I own a slab house that's 14 inches above the BFE. My house is only 14 inches. So my house flooded and it was substantial improvement. I would then have to come to the city and ask for a variance to go against this. So the thought process was, if you are in a pier and beam, you should be raising the house. You, as an example, got a pier and beam house, it got flooded, you need to raise it. There should be no exception to that. There can be a variance to someone who, there is a cost prohibitive way of preventing it from it happening. I would basically have to bulldoze my house and start over. That's not a doable situation. The house was built in 1953. No one expected this to happen. One of the highest houses in the area. If it floods, it floods, But if I was on pier and beam, the thought process is you should be lifting it.
But we're saying that if it's on a foundation that we shouldn't.
I would have to come to the city, the way it's written, okay? I'm impacted probably the most of almost anyone here. I would have to come to the city, ask for a variance.
So
Basically, what he's saying is, hey, to correct the conditions resulting from a flood damage would substantiate would become a substantial improvement. He would then be required to meet the requirements of this ordinance.
Mhm.
To do so, you would have to somehow lift his house either off the slab or raise the slab.
Yeah.
However that would happen, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
So,
right, so at that point, they would have to request a variance or some other thing. So
I'm a firm believer
the
that-
question is, does the city want to be burdened with dealing with this variance request
Mhm.
after a major flooding event that would impact properties such as his? And if it's impacting his, probably impacting a lot more than, just using his example, we want to have 20 variance requests that the city would review and approve. Some of it probably has to do with what the loss condition is of the house, I would imagine, but.
If that happens, good looking flood insurance, right?
well, I'm just saying, I mean,
I get it now. I can get it now.
the easiest thing would be to cross out substantial improvement, just say all new construction.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I think if somebody has an older home, say, for example, Lorraine Harrison.
Yeah.
Talk about those houses, the Craddock's, or, they were built 60 years ago and they flood and they're able to clean it up or whatever, put new sheetrock in.
Which they have.
So I just think we need to be fair about grandfathered or older structures. I just think, there's some that are
I
obvious
think
that are.
I think it's almost unfair to even say if it's pier and beam, because that's still.
Yeah, you're right. It should
a
be,
Huge on.
You're right, you're right.
Can't
So
financially take that on.
I totally agree with you, Nick. So I think, I know, come up with something, but that concerns me, the substantial improvements of any
I
structure.
think if you have a choice in the matter, like building a new
I don't
home.
know how we could word that, or
You have to follow. these
This was
ordinances.
this is one of the hottest topics, obviously, the
Yeah,
meeting was.
absolutely.
is that, I think it's only just.
But our standard as a committee was to say, this is what it probably should be. Don't take anyone's personal, including my own situation in. What should it be for the betterment of everybody? This is the standard.
Oh, we're agree.
You guys debated and
We're-
we're either deciding this decision.
We're all agreeing on new construction. We're all agreeing. That's a
New
no-brainer.
construction, but with the old construction, what harm is it to the city if we do allow them to rebuild at the same height they already had grandfathered in?
I don't know how we could word that, or.
I mean, like.
What harm is
Keep it the same.
From a public policy standpoint, the harm is the external economic impacts on everybody's flood insurance, that this house continues to get destroyed and it raises everybody else's rates.
Mhm.
So it's
Is that
putting,
exponentially?
it's that externality
Yeah.
is avoided to some degree when you require this for those situations where there's a loss. It helps everybody else's flood insurance rates in the
And
future.
Right.
take, for instance, like Mary Evelyn, that's
Yeah.
right there in the pink house.
Mhm.
You know, water was just gushing out of her front door, just like.
But
We're in it.
that's a prime example of that house. That house
And
right
so
there.
then like, what I'm hearing right now at the table is like saying that if somebody wanted to go in and just gut the house and redo it and just leave it the way it is, then that's fine. The same thing is gonna keep happening.
Yeah,
when it
they're
was.
just gonna have that.
Okay,
They're just
The
gonna
same
have
exact
money.
thing.
I agree, but that's a prime example. That house is a prime example. Because I talked to the builder on that. She got 3 or 4 inches in there, I think, maybe a little more. But what they did at that point, they put porcelain floors in. They had the doors open the other way. They had removable panels on their walls instead of having sheetrock. So they made it to the point, if it does
That's
flood.
our new place though. She's
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about.
not the new place.
Yeah.
That's our new place got flooded. They totally remodeled it.
Mhm.
But they designed it to be
To handle
a less damage occurring, like no carpet, porcelain, floor.
Right.
Tile.
Without getting
Hose it out.
Without getting into the details of it, really what it comes down to though, is like, are we gonna not allow somebody like Mary Evelyn who wants to restore that house and has the money to, and you're gonna make her either lift it up to 24 inches on a slab,
No, it's.
all those houses are gonna have to be redone. If it floods, torn down and redone, so it's whether we wanna allow that as a city or not. I mean, we don't really.
So
have
how
to.
could we, to be fair, I know, Meredith, the old house has been set since 15,
I say if it's torn down,
but
if it's torn down, then completely.
A house that had 3 inches of water in it did not qualify
Yeah.
for this
Yeah.
significant improvement, because you'd have to destroy 50% of the property
Right.
value of destruction.
Well, yeah, I don't
That
know.
would not.
Zoning. I was wondering if you.
Well, it's a possibility, yes, I'm not,
Yeah,
and I'm ignorant to that.
yeah.
I've been through hurricanes, I've not been through this kind of flood stuff, so it's totally different, you know what I mean?
I guess the question is how to be fair about this. I mean, okay, obvious, these structures over here need to be torn down. They're dilapidated, they're not in use.
Yeah, they're not gonna
But
restore
the
that.
houses, Mary, the Craddock's they redid, and Mary Evelyn also designed her house to be somewhat.
So
easier.
let's be clear though, this is not a situation where water comes in, you cut all the drywall out,
Yeah.
mop the floors, replace the carpet. That situation would not result in a substantial improvement. Substantial improvement is defined as a 50%
loss.
of loss on its market value. These homes have a pretty significant market value. A simple, Serve Pro cleanup job probably isn't going to be half the market value of your house.
So should we put the 50%?
Well, it's in there already.
already
in the
mentioned.
Definition.
It's already in there later.
Yeah.
It's previously.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're discussing it, but that was, just as long as everyone understands what's,
I don't know.
what's the
though,
situation?
Because sometimes Sometimes
just-
you go into the house and if they have to redo the floors, take all the sheet rock out.
Okay,
or
you ain't
re-
really
re-
ready to
sheet
start.
rock.
Have you done
It could-
mitigation before?
It's-
I've done 5.
Yeah,
I've done 5.
Okay, I'm
It's
sorry.
not 50%. You'd have to do, I mean, you'd have to have something come down the river and knock something over.
right.
I'll
Or
stand
go
corrected. I
half-
didn't read that.
Or go,
That's
2 or 3
understandable.
feet
I got a
underwater.
problem there.
Yeah, leave it.
David did it.
Yeah.
I didn't see
That's
that.
all.
I'll stay corrected. Okay.
In the
Okay.
definition, you add in here a freeboard, you do mention flood proofed. And then above there is the definition of flood proofing. Could we just look at that definition?
We're gonna change it.
Yeah, I think it just-
Flood proofing
Wait,
definition.
hang a minute.
Right there.
We're, oh,
No,
flood.
flood proofing, I'm not talking about freeboard.
That's already in the.
But how does that jive with, say, a percentage rate of something that's damaged? It just says, oh, these are addition or changes to reduce flooding, then that's not, say, you're flood proofing.
This is
as
just a
result
definition.
of a
That's
flood.
just a definition. That's just a definition that's used later.
But I wanted, when I first saw the word flood proofed, I wanted it to be defined in my brain what that means. And so it says it up there, but that doesn't even coincide with the 50% of damage.
No. Floodproofing is. Yeah.
Separate activity.
Separate.
Okay.
Okay, I'll stand corrected on that. That's the only thing I got with those 2 statements.
But if you're not paying a mortgage and you have a house, you don't need to have flood insurance necessarily, right? You don't have to.
Owners.
If you own it free and clear.
If you own it free and clear, you don't have to. But if it floods, then you're down the creek.
Yeah, literally,
Okay.
potentially, depending on how good your foundation is.
Better not be down.
I don't think it will be a creek either.
No,
Okay.
find it in the creek.
The only other issue then is the non-residential new construction and substantial improvements already in Iowa. So basically, we applied it only to new construction.
The
On,
50%.
Yeah.
B.
Yes.
So,
Go back up. What did you say?
so under specific standards, B, which is non-residential construction, new construction of any commercial industrial shall be 24 inches, only on new. We did not apply the substantial improvement to
Yeah.
that. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they're gonna have to get insurance, they're gonna have a hard time getting it anyway. The numbers basically say it pays for itself. Lift it, it pays for itself, 5 years at the most. And it helps everyone else, because that's the whole thing, we're all paying insurance based upon the community, the standard that you were alluding to.
I don't think I realized that. I'm glad you guys brought that up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the smart terminal only gonna make it worse for us. is what we're alluding to, you know, so-
Great.
Oh, by the way,
Just to throw some.
Catherine and myself went to the city council meeting and it's 2,000 acres.
2,300
Yeah.
Acres.
70% impervious.
That's not on the agenda.
Well, I'm just saying, he brought it up, I'm just saying.
She said point of order.
Okay.
Mike, you're supposed to tell her. You're supposed to tell her. Can I talk, Dan?
Yeah.
Can I talk, Dan?
We're just following the conversation about it.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Now, is there something else that we have to do, Adrian?
For this,
153.26B that you had sent an email about? Is there
156.
something that the city,
154.
yeah, it's,
Are you talking about this,
153.26B.
about this item here?
Yeah.
About the flood?
Yeah.
No, we don't have anything tacked on right now.
We're gonna come back with that
A
ordinance,
ordinance.
rewritten and,
But I mean,
for approval.
the email.
Oh,
you
no,
sent,
that's
do we have
not-
to do anything, any requirements or anything?
Not yet. No,
Yeah,
not after what we had spoken about it earlier this week.
okay.
And by the way, I did contact the Caldwell County. They just enacted that 24 inches last year.
Last year. Wow,
So-
good to know.
So we'll be compliant with the county. Okay.
No, we didn't.
Like I said, I personally was involved with this.
That's right.
Well, it's up to you. Next slide.
New business.
Okay, we're gonna move on to new business. 3.1, consider approval to issue $6,957.19 from state and local fiscal recovery funds to the utility fund. And Adrian.
Okay, so as last meeting discussed about updating our utility billing system. Now, to make sure that we do this right, we would like to enter this new system with a clean set of records. Now, over the past few months, the utility clerks and I have been working together on finding discrepancies in our utility accounts. We found that, in the next slide, that there's about 16 accounts that amount to about $7,000 of error billing. There's one account that I would like for council to pay a lot of attention on, and I'll address that in a minute. And I'm also going to talk about how we at the city are fixing our utility billing record management to make sure that everybody's bills is correct and such. So our new business practices are, on the next slide, is we've updated our billing changes. So when someone's going to request to have their waste services changed, so from going to a commercial to a garbage bin, that has to be in signature and writing now. And to have better data entry, we started with the auto payment to make sure that our residents are not overpaying or underpaying the city and doesn't create any more billing issues. And a improved internal transparency with TDS. On the next slide, I showcase where we have now a section on our updated billing that when a customer wants to change their services, that they can fill it out and we have it on writing and a signature at the end. The next slide is, this is more of the internal part of the city where we work with data entry. And before it was kind of done at a person's discretion, whoever's working that day. Now we've streamlined it, what the data entry should look like, and we'll have a better way to gather information on the city's residents and its customers. The next slide. Was the
I
ACE.
had a question about that. Will the account come up as an account number, or does it have the person's name on the account?
It's going to have their name and account number. The account number is assigned from what the property is. So if your CAD ID, whatever your CAD ID is, what we use for account numbers.
And is that reflected on that form?
It's on the back end of it. You see there's some tabs on this below, sorry. There's some tabs on the side, and that's where you enter your account number. You just can't see
This
it.
is on the internal
Yeah.
process.
Oh, okay.
But we've identified emails, what kind of service they're receiving, if they want to sign up on CityPay or not, so forth. But we've streamlined it where we're not putting someone's email in a website or someone's email in the physical address or something. Now we can do our data management properly. We're working on larger projects. Next slide. This is what some of you may be familiar with, is our auto payment system, where some customers in the city pay $1,000 for a whole year. So they don't have to worry about it. So instead of them having to pay an absorbent amount of money for a $36 bill, that we just do that service for them. Next slide.
Can I ask you something about this?
Yeah.
So I thought, whenever we had the discussion, like it was gonna be encouraged and like cash payments were gonna be phased out and it was gonna be online and no longer paper. But on here it says the first of several new payment options. So what are the options?
On this section here.
Yeah, that's right.
So this is what we have in place right now.
Uh-huh.
We haven't made the transition yet. It's gonna be, we're actually gonna have to get rid of this form and it'll be done online. And that's where Bill.com will do the ACH for us.
So this isn't something that.
No, but this is what we've been doing for the past few months to improve our billing.
So you can pay for a year,
You can,
estimate how much you're gonna pay each month.
you can, you very well can. Now, next slide. This is where the meat of the conversation is gonna be. We found 16 accounts to have an error, a billing error. Account 16 is our big ticket item. The rest of the amounts are lesser. I'm keeping these names anonymous so that we don't start looking into people and finding out what their business is. But we've made communications with several of these people and they're aware of the situation.
So.
Yeah.
So when you say that there's a billing error of $7,000, that is not in our favor, I take it.
So account 16 is the one I'm more concerned about because they were overpaying the city. And
Oh, so we owe them.
that's right. And that's what I'm going to get into. The rest of the accounts is where the TDS bill and what we're billing the customers did not match. So say we're billing you 96 gallon trash, but you really had 2 trash bins. And TDS is billing us 2 trash bins, but you're paying them only for 1 trash bin.
Oh,
You're kind of getting the better end of the deal. Now, that's the case for the rest of the accounts.
okay.
Only account 16 has that reverse situation where we were overbilling them. Okay?
You have a smooth-
It all bounce out.
So you're just trying to get everything all straight and want to start with like a zero balance with this new system.
That's right.
Yes.
So account 16 is a commercial account. The city overbilled them for 30 months. It started in June 7th of 2020. We've already made contact with them and there's no harm, there's no bad intentions against each other. They understand it was a billing error. And we'll be hoping to reimburse the account with this SLF.
So they got free
SLFRF.
garbage for like the next 3 years almost.
Well, what we prefer to do is just to cut the check.
Yeah.
And we talked to them about what their preference would be, and their preference would be to cut the check. So
Why would
as
that
we
be?
digged into how this happened, it was during COVID. We had recently lost a number. We lost one employee who was a utility clerk during that period. We had another that was planning to retire, and so we hired 2 new utility clerks. And in that first week on their job, or maybe like their second day on the job, someone called and requested a utility billing change. And that change was made through TDS. But because we work on alternating schedules and the training environment that we're in, we're dealing with brand new people. Adrian hadn't started yet. So it's not on him, but can't blame him yet.
Well, you start off with it happened during COVID, so
happened during
really
COVID.
everything after that's just void.
But we were dealing with a significant changeover, and the customer billing change was not reflected on their billing account. And that's what his reference. 30 months, we billed them.
Why
for
would
2
you
cans.
prefer, why would you prefer to pay them, just cut a check rather than just have it?
In case there's continuity issues in that account later on, if they.
This happened to me in San Marcos. I was paying too much for water.
Yeah.
I had 2 accounts for my commercial building.
Yeah.
And I had like 3 years of free water. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we could do it that way. It would just, our billing system is not
How long is their lease?
intuitive. I don't know. I wouldn't consider that. It'd be a more difficult burden for us to know when to turn off the free billing than it is to give them a check now.
That's fair.
Yeah.
While we have the
That's fair.
money. And this would not directly you'd see a plus up on the utility fund from our ARPA funding
Mhm.
and a higher outlay coming out. So it's going to make our budget look a little funny
Mhm.
at the end of the year, but we're going to be on balance, at least as this activity is.
It'll.
But yeah, that's our account 16. We can move over to account 1. This is a lesser account, $80. This is where TDS bills us for for the service that they're getting and more that we weren't billing them. This is 4 months of service. So if you see the line below where it says residential extra 96 gallon cart, $20.11 times 4 is, well, the 8044. So that's 4 months of service that they had an extra residential. And now we've corrected the bill to where we're charging the right amount. And it's the same case repeating on.
But are you going back after the retro amount? Like if anything is owed from the customer to the city, if they were
I
undercharged?
think that's a policy decision that we can make. I see it both ways of, we could try to, like customer 2, account 2, kick them a bill of $1,000, the thin blue sky. Or we say it's our mistake
Yeah.
and we're done. That's what we're preferring to do, is just cut our loss. Congratulations, you benefited.
It's an account you didn't even know about.
And then we have to go through a motion to like do that or?
Yeah,
can-
so tonight what we're asking for is that total number 69.
It's about $7,000.
Yeah, it's just shy of $7,000 approval from city council to make the funding transfers and the payments.
And why do you want to take it from this state and local? fiscal
Because it
recovery?
would significantly impact our utility fund. Our utility fund is budgeted almost to the penny in a $6,000 hit like this.
You'd have to move stuff around.
We'd
Wings still go up.
Okay.
be felt.
So,
How did you guys find this?
Well, if you go back on the,
Were you audited
Third
every
slide.
account?
we're looking at every account.
I mean, we get a bill every month and it's not impossible to do if you.
So yeah, we've been looking over our, we have a PDF file of all the commercial and residential accounts in the city. Sometimes TDS issues a residential account to a commercial account, and they're on 2 different bills. And so we try to get that straightforward. And we've been carefully auditing what the TDS sends us, what we have. That's how we found these 16 accounts. But Carmen, Donna, and Christian have worked very hard on each individual account, all 406 accounts, really.
It's a lot, man.
Y'all don't owe me no money?
Well, it's not mentioned on there.
That's what I was thinking. I was like,
Maybe you're lucky 16.
I'd pay a little extra just so you don't hold for my money.
Let me be 16. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, I want to check my account real quick.
I was like, please don't say my name, please don't say my name. I'm kidding.
She said, we were gonna actually hear and talk about one specific account.
Yeah, can I look at the
Sonia?
number 7?
We gotta talk.
I'm kidding with y'all a little bit.
I think you'd have to save for that vote for personal interest, right?
Right.
Then another
But that's a
commercial
good
account
point.
of, this account had asked to get their dumpster changed, but it never happened. And so TDS continued to build us at the old dumpster rate. And we did calculate over before the rate changes happened. So if you notice on the use table for the utility billing, it goes up every year. And then we made sure that
How did
That-
you know, how did you know when they requested? Did they send an email?
we were checking the utility bill from TDS.
Yeah.
So we found that, okay, well, this stay the same, and then it hit a certain month, say April of
Mhm.
2021 on the TDS bill, where you see a difference in March of 2021. And we also checked our own bills as well.
But when did they request for the garbage can to be?
Oh, you'll see it on the TDS bill,
Okay.
when that change on the account, they have a different account number
Mhm.
than we do,
Mhm.
but we also link it to our utility billing.
How you can check it in the future?
Yeah.
How you can?
Oh, are we gonna check in the future? Well, that's gonna be a task now for the utility clerks to always monitor the TDS bill with our utility bill. And, probably assign pages 1 through 50 to Monday, 51 through 100 to Tuesdays, and then
So you'll double check that
Yeah.
the right hand and left hand know what
But
they're
like,
doing.
wouldn't the numbers match, like the amount that TDS bills you and then the amount that you're billing, like at the end of the month, wouldn't those two numbers match?
Well,
You might
Not
pay
exactly,
late.
because we do some couple of markups. There's a flat rate markup.
So then if you,
Some areas
those
and a
two numbers
percentage
match and then you do the markup, or like deduct that amount from that, but shouldn't those two
We
numbers
also have
match?
the water billing. A lot of times people are paying a single invoice for both water and solid waste. And so it gets a little bit more difficult than.
Mhm.
You might run into missing payments as well, where someone doesn't pay their their invoice for the month or the following month.
Yep.
And it leads to
Not
that.
that anybody in this room would.
so on that account 3, underbilled by that amount, or were they overbilled?
Underbilled. So overbilled would be the situation of account 16,
Which
where
is
they turned in more money to the city. And
we
the
owe them money.
TDS is billing us.
Well, oh,
So you're
TDS
gonna
owes us
get
money.
that amount of money
No.
back from
it was
them?
our mistake.
No.
Is that what you're saying?
So this,
They were
this
underbilled?
is so in count 3, what's happening here is the city was paying for a service that we were not passing, that payment was not being passed along to the actual customer.
Yeah.
So if it was an extra $20 a month that TDS was billing for that extra service, we were not including an extra $20 a month in our bill. And that's where we made the mistake. That's 15 of the 16 are those situations. Like this account 3 is pretty significant where that took place. The commercial accounts, where commercial accounts get off, it's a lot bigger numbers than a residential account.
Sure.
So are we saying the city is
Okay.
gonna pay that amount based on it saying?
We're paying ourselves to prevent a deficit. Is basically what we're
And
doing.
it's underbilled, it's like a negative.
So,
We end up running a negative on the expenses where we wouldn't have a similar income. And so our budget would have a deficit. So we're correcting that deficit, that budgetary deficit by a transfer of funding from our ARPA account into the utility.
and we can afford it through our general fund.
We're using federally provided funds to do
Okay.
this.
That's fine. And do you think this new system will help alleviate some of these human errors?
It should, in the sense of where the customer assumes that the city's always gonna be correct. This increases with the new system with increased transparency where the customer can also revise their own work. That, hey, you're overbilling me, or maybe you're billing me too much.
Right.
Right now, you kind of always gotta call City Hall to verify how much a customer owes. This will be, customers can check their bill 24/7 now, as long as the new systems servers are running.
Or I think also it's just like, this would be like, grow, because it's like also how you build relationships with our neighbors. And like you can say, hey, you're paying for, you have a commercial business or whatever they have, and just let them say, yeah, that's what I'm paying for. Some people might not know, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like account 3 as an example, they're making it good. They're getting a bigger dumpster than they're paying for, so that's.
And not only, you would also see your account history on the new system. So if you see a jump or a dip, right now you can't. And it's even as working on our end, reading that report that the system gives us takes time. It's not just some breeze through.
Are you having some customers that are having trouble with the automated system?
There's been one issue where a customer's getting billed an extra $1 every month and he's throwing off his checkbook. But that's just we've addressed it amongst accounting and utility clerks of how to correct that issue.
So, to make a motion on this,
Yeah,
to consider approval to issues. $6,957.
It's approving the transfer from the state and local recovery fund to the utility fund of that amount.
Right, okay, so I'm just gonna make a motion to approve the transfer of $6,957.19 from the state and local fiscal recovery fund to the utility fund.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any more discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, so the motion carries. Thank you, Adrian.
thank you guys.
And thanks to our utility clerks, they did a lot of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
For eyeballs.
Thank you.
Okay, the next two items should go really quickly. So we just need to set a date for a workshop and it looks like it's being suggested to this coming Saturday.
21st may be too soon with public
It
notice
was
requirements.
Yeah, we don't
Yeah.
really hit that.
But if you guys are open to do a workshop on some weekend, it's my
During the week.
well, you guys can set up the day whenever you want. It's just now that everybody's here at a full house, we can
Yeah.
discuss amongst ourselves when we could all attend.
And how long do we want to do the workshop or maybe do we want to do it in two different shorter workshops or one big long workshop?
How are you gonna let the public know about this first?
Just as we do for council meetings, we'll be putting it on the website
On
and
Sundays.
on the bulletin board. Unfortunately, not until our new billing system's up and running, people won't get it on their emails yet, but yeah, they'll still get text messages for those who are signed up in our city newsletter.
Well, you have to have 72 hours.
I'll be fishing Sunday, but next Sunday, I like
Well,
next
like
Sunday.
have
Last Sunday
I
of the month.
can't do it.
have
next
surveys
Sunday.
gone out, like on the website, like for discussions that we may want to talk about? So we could have like already some answers submitted or like, are we just going off of a 5-year plan or?
We plan to discuss the maintenance issues. So not so much where the public's involved, but like about what are we gonna do about mowing? What about maintenance in the upcoming summer?
We'll probably bring in the results of that draft plan forward and we can discuss those in that context. But this is really getting to, summer is only a few months away. Last year was really, last couple of years. Since we've opened up phase 1, the river access part, that's been a real eye opener on
We need revenue from that.
the deficient maintenance. And we're relying on volunteers, kind of work of Councilmember Clinton, really. And I mean, honestly, if his singular efforts has kept that place somewhat sanitary as much as possible. And we got to figure out a long-term solution. So there's no easy decisions when it comes to that. So that's kind of the focus is how do we prepare for summer? Less so, what are we doing for the next 5 years?
Or is there any way that like we could get like a sheet or a form with the amount that's in the budget, like a proposed amount that we think that could be spent on maintenance, a proposed amount that we think that could be spent on somebody, so that way we at least have time to
Yes.
like put thought into like, before we come to this meeting, rather just getting here and it's just all like willy-nilly.
Yeah.
I
I think you're right. We need to have an agenda
Yeah.
for this.
We do
workshop.
have a maintenance plan set up by the Parks Advisory Board. At the last, in the December meeting,
But I
it
feel
Amount
like
has an end plan of how to use money just for Allen Bates Park.
We're gonna talk about a revenue plan, like, I've said before, people that don't live in city limits pay.
why don't you come up with an agenda and include the
We
plan
need to.
and
The amount.
send it to us and we can
Yeah,
Say
but
we-
what day,
date do we
what
want
day
to
do you guys want to meet for
Yeah,
a
we can
workshop?
figure this out.
Not so much about what we're gonna
Next
do
Saturday?
today, but when can we prepare ourselves to meet?
What's next Saturday look like?
We won't do them a week.
I got plans next, on the 28th.
It's 20.
Do we want to do?
This Saturday,
Is that, do we want to do?
Too
it?
late.
Too late.
I think Nick and
I'm,
Sonia have to do it on
I'm
a
free.
weekend or an evening.
What do you prefer?
I'm you, Sonia.
he prefers Sundays.
I don't think an evening would be enough time.
I like Saturday mornings,
Saturday morning works.
because Saturday mornings are like good, you can have coffee and like, you know,
You can have coffee
Mhm.
anymore,
I,
Sonia.
I'm good for Saturday, this Saturday if needed.
Adrian brings.
No, it's too late to
Yeah.
Post
post
it.
it.
Those got fine.
So, and I'm busy on the 28th. How about February 4th?
February 4th. That's Saturday, first Saturday?
Mhm.
First Saturday on February.
I like to go out on the first Friday of every month, so.
Oh,
Hit the square
So
hard.
you'll be chipper
Cover for a month.
Saturday morning, huh?
I'll be ready for that Saturday morning.
Mhm.
Is that
You
a
bring
yes
the
to everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah, February, Saturday.
Fourth.
Fourth, Saturday.
Jan, if someone wants to make a motion to instruct that certain things.
Oh,
be
I make
included
the
on
motion.
Agenda. No, if you
Oh.
want to instruct that things be included on the agenda and information be provided, you can do that now too.
The 11th
I like-
would be better for me
Oh.
if we can put it that far away.
2023.
Do we need you?
No, the February 11th.
Yeah, we need that, Jared.
February 11th.
They'll give the staff some time to
Okay.
work on
Prepare.
some of the projects we talked about. We can take what the Parks Advisory Board provided. We can dig a little bit into the business plan aspect of what Councilmember McLeod has referred to and come with some numbers by that point. At least notional numbers as a starting point for discussion, which I think is what I'm hearing tonight.
And the Parks Department had done that.
I'd like to maybe talk to you about that, what the Parks Advisory Committee came up with their numbers, because they were not accurate at all, based on the mowing cycles, based on the maintenance, those.
Well, they can give
Yeah.
us true numbers.
Yeah,
I think
we'll
they
work
need to
towards getting
send
those
it
more accurate
well,
numbers.
Yeah.
So that,
those
because
weren't-
I'm sure everybody's gonna wanna say, oh, I wanna talk about this, also.
Okay, do I have a
Okay.
motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we schedule a Parks Advisory, considers a Parks Revenue and Maintenance Workshop for February the 11th at 9:30
Didn't get that far,
a.m.
did we?
Yeah.
Thumbs up for me, yeah, cool.
With a prepared agenda, business plan, and records of the advisory.
Previous
board
spending.
recommendations.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
Aye.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the motion carries. Okay, so the last item was to set a date for the citywide cleanup. Last year, we did it on Earth Day. And so this year, Earth Day is April 22nd. Remember, the election is right after that.
When's Easter this year?
Easter is in April.
Ninth?
April the 9th.
Yeah,
April 9th.
When is it, election? When is the election falls on what day this year?
April,
6th.
May 6th, okay.
well, early voting is 24th through April 24th through May 2nd, and then election day is the 6th of May.
Yeah, the 22nd.
That's a recall.
That's good.
I'm not as good.
That's on Saturday, I assume, the 22nd.
Okay, you want to make a motion?
I make a motion to initiate the 2023 citywide cleanup on Earth Day, April 22nd.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
You like that?
Okay, then hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so the motion carries. And is there anything to add to the future agenda items?
Good.
April 22nd. Okay,
Well, we were gonna talk about the, specific use permit workshop. I mean, we started that. I know the specific use permit, but it isn't here. On the zoning, you know, where it's R1, R2, and what you can and cannot do in those zones.
Oh, they used
They used to, yeah.
The supplemental specific use table. We have never finished that. And there's still glitches in it that I am questioning about that R1, R2 and all that. So we need to discuss that more and get that done. The specific use table.
Is that already on
Uh,
somewhere?
no, he's
No,
asking to
Zoning
add it.
Oh,
use
okay.
table, that it's
Okay.
155.096.
What is it?
That's it?
155.096. I had to work with it today.
Okay. This is not in your brain. Whenever is fine. I'm just bringing it up again.
Okay, anything else to add to
Yeah,
future agenda?
What
We gotta-
was
we
Peter's
gotta
going on?
discuss the cotton property
Oh, yeah.
in executive session.
Oh,
Okay.
now?
No.
Oh.
Just about 2 hours tonight, yeah.
You got time? Step in my office.
Some coffee in the morning, we got whiskey.
Yeah,
And jail before the meeting.
At the next meeting, executive session?
Yeah, put that here.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, a motion and a second.
At
All
8:19.
At 8:19, all in favor, please say
Aye.
any